Hi, and welcome to the podcast today. Today, what we're going to be talking about is navigating the tricky road of equality and fairness. And this is a topic that we for sure will have other episodes in the future that will be discussing this because it is such a big issue for every business owner that I've ever worked with internationally. This is one that people really don't get around, and especially business owners who want to try to figure out how to put people first, who are trying to figure out how to, have Thanksgiving, have Christmas, keep their relationships with their employees whole, keep their friendships. It really is one that dives deep because you've got two different aspects. You've got the belief of the owner and them trying to do the best for the situation and the transition. And then you've got the belief of all the people who are being impacted by the equality and fairness decisions. So the perceptions make a big difference. So this is sort of hard and tricky to navigate, which is, why we called it what we did. So this is always one of the biggest dilemmas for owners as they navigate. And it's something that the owners strive for, people strive for. However, there is no formula for fairness and equality. When we work with business owners, we start with helping them to understand what are their values. So how do they perceive equality and fairness? Doing kind of a deep dive into that. And you can do some reflective work just yourself on how do you perceive equality and fairness? What does that really mean to you? And how important is it to you in your world? How important is it to you and to others? So the equality and fairness depends on the perspective. And I thought I would give you a quick story. We'll start with, it's 5 kids and a father. So we've got 5 kids, 2 out of the business, 3 in the business, and we've got the dad. And I'm going to give you a couple of different aspects to think about. First of all is inside the business. So the 3 that are in the business are all sons, and they happen to be in their late 40s, early 50s. They've worked in the business for many years, and the business has supported them and their families through the work that they've done. Only one of them had owned a home, made enough money to own a home, and they were very dependent on the dad's decisions on how much money they made because the dad was in that controlling position, that CEO role. The dad, years before when the boys had started, decided that in order to be equitable and fair, that what he would do is he would pay them all the same amount of money. No matter what role they had, he would pay them exactly the same. And that kind of worked when they were younger because they didn't have families and they weren't supporting people like that, and their jobs were more aligned. But as they grew through the business, what happened is everybody got a raise. If one got a raise, they all got the raise. Even though one was like CFO and another one might have been a great salesperson and another one might have been in the construction side and doing, running a crew outside. So you can see there's a little bit of diversity in their roles. However, they all got the same. They all were getting the same raises and they all were doing the same thing. When we started working with this company, what we found is the dad had dug himself a nice hole because he couldn't figure out how to be equitable and fair and pay people differently for what they did. That was a real dilemma for him. So you can have equality and fairness inside the company. And the perspective was that he was very fair until they started doing different roles. And then what happened is the sons decided that it wasn't okay and that they weren't being treated fairly and they weren't being treated equitably because they were doing work that all of the work was very different. So pull the whole thing apart, put it back together. Now they had incentive to do more, because before they were just getting paid what they got paid. Why do more? Incentive to do more, incentive pay, a reason to move up the ladder, a way, just like in our world, the regular world out there, a way to make choices and decide, if I work harder, maybe I can make some more money. If I go back to school, maybe I can make first some more money. And so they had more control then, or decision power over their behavior and their lives. So that's a really good example of perception, where equality and fairness started out with really great intentions and over the years turned into a huge dilemma that had to be unpacked and then put back together. Did it well. They're still going to Christmas and having a good time as a family. There were some pretty hard conversations in that dilemma. So we're just talking about equality and fairness inside the business with roles, who gets to do what and how much does everybody get paid. When you think about external to the business, so let's talk about equity, because, shareholders, someday I'll talk to you about my business enterprise model, that it's basically a SWOT model, but it's kind of fun because it's got a lot of movement in it. The shareholders sit on the outside of the business. They're the investors in the business. And so when you're transitioning work and tasks and things like that, that's all inside the business. When you start to think about transitioning equity, that's outside the business. It's just the investment money that the business is using in order to do what it needs to do and be in business. So same example, we'll use the same family. You've got 3 kids inside the business working, and you've got 2 outside the business. So equality and fairness comes down to beliefs, right? And your thoughts on what's okay and what's not okay. What's fair and equitable and what isn't. And again, there's no formula for this. So is it right for this family to gift, let's say they have enough money external, they don't need the money out of the business. Let's just say that. Is it okay for them to gift 20% to all 5 kids? So they're all in business together. Some people would go, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Wouldn't want to do that. What a dilemma that could create. Because you've got 3 in the business that are active, 2 outside the business that aren't doing anything. So how come they get ownership? Right? That's that perspective. But the dad and mom think it's pretty good because they were fair to everybody. Or do the 3 that are in the business get more of a percentage than the 2 outside the business because they've earned that? Maybe. Or did the 2 outside of the business not get any of the equity of the business because they have other lives and they're doing other things, and the 3 that are working in the business should have control of their own destiny without having to make money for the other 2? This is common, and it's a dilemma that many people run into with external owners. And this can happen, I'm giving you the family dynamic, but this can happen even in a partner dynamic, where a partner who might be an older partner, longtime partner. If you're a longtime partner, you're probably a little older in age anyway, but it could be a longtime partner, and they've built and grown the business and they're no longer active in the business. They really don't even have a job anymore. They barely come into the office, but they still own 20% or 30% or 40% of the business. And all these other people that have the other portion of the equity are working hard. So is it okay for that partner to be able to do that and reap the benefits, the dividends, the money, the extra money that the business makes, those distributions? Is it okay for that to happen or not? Does it cause chaos or frustration and conflict? So all of this boils down to equality and fairness, because in that example with the partner who's not doing as much in the company anymore, the younger partners, right, the newer partners, the ones that are still active in the business and engaged every day, see it as making money for potentially a guy or girl, lady, who doesn't really come to work very often. Is that fair? Is that equal? As you walk through this equality and fairness situation, it's very important for you to understand how you see equality and fairness. Like, what are your values, your own beliefs and feelings about equality and fairness? Just doing a very deep dive, being very introspective about that. And one thing that I like to encourage is for you, if you have a significant other or a spouse, to explore what their belief is also, especially if it's a family situation where you have children. Because the equality and fairness issues bleed over into family dynamics, just relationships in general, friendships. And so it's important that you've got other people's perspectives so that you can bring that together and then offer a very solid reason for your decisions on how you believe your thoughts and your actions are going to be equal and fair to those who are coming in or to those who are not included, because some people will be typically excluded for some reason, whether it's an employee or whether it's a family member. So the beginning is to do that deep dive and understand their belief systems. And then the next step is to start to explore intended consequences and unintended consequences. So what do you believe are going to be the consequences of your decisions on equality and fairness? Kind of like your plan of how you might distribute the equity, and also who might be in a job role, a CEO, and who might not. So what do you expect? What are intended consequences? And we can't see unintended consequences very well, of course, because they're unintended. However, by exploring not only your beliefs and your thoughts, but also by bringing in some kind of an advisor, somebody who's done this over and over again for many years. It could be your CPA or lawyer, could be a consultant, kind of like our firm. It could be, even sometimes therapists have done a lot of work in this area. So very valuable. So what are those consequences that you believe might happen? And remember, those can be mindsets and those can be dilemmas that are not true. But you're going to start to figure out if they were true, how would you deal with that? With best of intent, because you're not doing this to hurt anybody. You're doing it to help everybody. This business transition helps the community, helps the employees, helps the business go on, helps everybody hopefully to do well. That's your best of intent. It's just trying to figure out what's the best path forward that's going to help to support that. Communication is going to be key when you get to the part where you're going to have to talk to somebody and tell somebody what you think and how this is really going to work. So your foundation and understanding what you want is crucial. My question for you is, what are your beliefs, your feelings, your thoughts on equality and fairness? And where do they support you in doing what you want to do with the business and what you think is best for you and the company and your family? And where do they not support you? And I'd like to leave you with that question to ponder. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope I see you next time.